we can't stay the way we are and grow to 20 million, to 25, to 30 million. We just can't. We have to start making changes.
Welcome back to Pest Radio, the podcast where we sit down with the people shaping the future of the pest control industry, from operators and marketers to the companies helping pest professionals solve bigger challenges and grow smarter. I'm Faye Cebioglu, founder of Digital Karma. We help pest control companies generate consistent leads, build stronger marketing systems, and create long-term growth through strategy, automation, and AI. Before we jump into today's conversation, I have one small ask. If you enjoy Pest Radio and find value in these conversations, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get into today's episode. Today, we are going behind the scenes of what changes when a pest control company moves from growing the business to managing growth at scale. We will talk about where the money goes, how technology creates an advantage, and how you keep people and customer relationships at the center. Today's guest is Mike Boyle from Burns Pest Elimination, and we will talk about what it really takes to build a business at that scale, from growth and technology to people, customer experience, and the next generation. Mike, welcome to the Pest Radio.
It is my pleasure to be here, Faye. Thank you.
So before we start about all the things that Burns Elimination, how did you jump into the pest control industry? What's your story?
Well, like everyone in pest control, I fell into it backwards, certainly not on purpose. I did not grow up hoping that someday I would work for a pest control company, but I actually met Burns about 17 years ago. I was a consultant, and my background was the psychology of communication as it relates to the business world. So that's customer service teams, sales teams, management teams. What I used to teach in my classes and seminars was, long story short, human brain is a computer. It operates on a very predictable software. And if you can learn how to communicate differently, you can get better results for you and everyone involved.
Mhm.
So I was giving a speech at a local apartment community, I can't remember which, and 3 or 4 Burns people were there. They liked what they had to hear. They introduced me to Dave and Danny Burns.
Mhm. Second
And
generation?
the second generation, Al would have thrown me out of his office, but Dave and Danny were open to talking to me. And we hit it off. I was an outside consultant that they would bring in once a week to teach classes for about a year and a half, 2 years. I fell in love with the culture here and went to ownership and said, "Can we figure out how to get me here full time?" And that was about 14 years ago, and I've never been happier.
What is your title at the company? I know it, but I want everybody to hear it.
It is Chief People Officer. That is my job.
What does a chief people officer do?
I do all the recruiting, hiring, and most of the training. I am responsible for the emotional well being for our employees. I am
Mm.
in charge of making sure that everyone who joins our team is growing not only professionally but personally as well. We take that very serious. If you join this team, you are going to become a better version of yourself. You don't really have a choice in the matter. So I'm here to make sure that happens.
I met a lot of pest control companies in the industry. How did you come up with that department? It's a very visionary thing, right?
Yes, it's very visionary. And like all good things, it didn't start out that way. It evolved. When I first got here, I can remember my first several weeks were Dave going, "Okay, go coach, figure it out." And it would just be me sitting in meetings going, "Hey, can I help you?" And a lot of people going, "Who the hell are you? Get out of here." And just slowly over the years, I took on more responsibilities. I took on the recruiting and hiring about 12 years ago because I realized that we didn't have a process for that. So I helped create that. And then it has really grown since the third generation, Austin, Corey, and Amanda, have taken over about a year and a half, 2 years ago. That they really turned my focus into that personal and professional development. They helped steer me that way. And yeah, it like everything, it evolves. And this is where I am today. Who knows where I'll be next year?
That's awesome. I like the story behind it.
Yeah,
And
it's a fun story. Thank you.
also, I want to start with the story behind the burns, okay, behind the numbers, because you're doing like 25.5 million and you have 250 people at the company, right?
Yes, we do.
So Burns started with one route and one truck after Al Burns traded a real estate commission for a piece of a pest control business. So looking
Yeah.
back, what were the biggest decisions or turning points that took Burns from that first truck to where it is today?
Well, number one, it the root cause, and we teach this to all new employees, and we live it daily, which is, and it's what's great about us, and it's also one of our weaknesses, is Al realized his kids were kind of growing apart, so he did the real estate deal and took the pest control route in trade because he wanted to create a way to bring his children back together. Basically said, I bought this, you're running it. So it's a commitment to family and keeping people in the family. So number one, that is probably the biggest contributor to our growth, which means, hey, not a lot of people get rich at pest control, but if you join this company, you are going to be safe. You are going to get a steady paycheck. You're never going to get laid off. That is our commitment to our people, and it has really helped attract people to us over the years. That's probably the number one reason, Faye.
We have seen, in the industry, a lot of companies with one truck, they're growing or they're not growing, stay at 1 million, 2 million, or
Yep.
500. And like for Burns, was there a particular stage of growth where the company realized we're not running the same kind of company anymore?
Oh, absolutely. But it took a lot longer. Dave and Danny specifically were always very growth minded from the outset. So
Uh-huh.
staying at one route or two routes or three routes was never an option for them. They realized very quickly they want to grow, they want to add more people to the team, to the family. But the biggest hurdle growth wise, I'm going to say, and it's a gray area, but I was here at this point, and this was right after I got brought on. It was somewhere around the 15 to 16 million dollar mark when everybody looked around and realized this is not going to work. We can't stay the way we are and grow to 20 million to 25 to 30 million. We just can't. We have to start making changes. And I don't know what it is. I actually did a little research that basically trying to figure out why are we struggling right now because at 15 million we are right around, as everybody knows, around 150 people.
Mhm.
If you look at the way hunter gatherers and cultures have evolved over generations, about 125 to 150 people was about as much as a culture could sustain with just word of mouth type leadership. In
Mhm.
charge, and his wife does this, and we can all be steady, healthy, and happy at that level. But for a civilization to go past around 150 people, you need to have systems, you need to have processes, you need to have a more efficient method of communicating your vision to everybody on the team. And my gut says, not an expert, but my gut says that's why we hit a hurdle right around 15 million.
And when you look back at the biggest jumps in Burns revenue, where did that growth actually come from?
Biggest growth in the very beginning was probably around year two or three when Dave and realized most of their work was residential. And
Mhm.
at that time in the early 80s, most residential clients wanted to be home when they got serviced. So that means they had nothing to do during the day. They would service 5 or 6 stops in the morning, they would take a break for 2 or 3 hours, and then they would go back to work in the afternoon. Dave realized there was a huge hole in the multifamily industry. He went to work talking, interviewing, and figuring out what property managers were frustrated with as it relates to pest control. And after probably 4 to 6 months, he came up with a pest control standard for multifamily housing and a pest free guarantee that he could present to make us look more attractive. Started to gain traction in the multifamily industry extremely quickly. So that was responsible for our biggest financial jump. That do your stops in the morning, and then in the middle of the day, you're going to hit 5 or 6 apartment communities. And as it turns, the process they designed at that time, which is way out of date now, but was very effective at the time, got us a lot of traction in the multifamily industry, which is why now in the Southwest, Phoenix, Arizona, and Las Vegas, we probably own about 65 to 70% market share multifamily because we're really good at that high occupancy situations.
So we can say this is the biggest jumps, but the Burns is in the industry for a long time,
Yeah.
so more than 40 years. Do you have like other like big jumps?
Yeah, it was right around the time when the boys started to gain more leverage, and the dads, who at that time were in their 60s, wanted to start handing off leadership of the company to
Mhm.
Austin, Corey, and Amanda. Austin and Corey and Amanda realized we're going to have to change if we're going to grow to 50 million, which is our target goal.
Mhm.
And they had the strength, the wherewithal, the foresight to bring in a couple of coaches that they admired, that they had met through business contacts, Jody Lowe and Michael Saletta, who came in, started interviewing the executives, and because we're executives and nothing's our fault, we started saying how our middle managers need help. They need to be more streamlined. They need to be better leaders, and we need you to help them. And after 2 weeks of observing the company and being a part of it, they came to the executive team and said, "Yeah, you guys are the ones that need help. We're not here to coach your middle managers. If you want our help, if you want real growth, you guys are going to have to change not only how you communicate with yourselves, but you're going to have to change how you communicate and have your relationships with your managers." And it was a really tough pill to swallow, being told we're not as great as we think we are. But they got us to go along, and it was very painful for a few months, but very quickly in their working with us and how we communicate and how we're dealing and what we're expecting of our managers, those relationships started to change, and middle management took off, and they started to see themselves differently. They started to act more like coaches and trainers and less like number crunchers and number watchers. And I think that was a huge step into getting us from that 1920 to 25, 26 to where we are today.
You know, when the companies grow, the financial side of the business changes along with it. And yeah, what are the financial concerns you deal with today that simply didn't exist when Burns was a much, much smaller operation?
That's a tough one. And I'll be brutally honest, we're going through it now. And we're getting through it, but it has been a challenge because I think, as every small to medium sized business knows, there's a lot of stuff you can do very casually with accounting and payroll that works when you have 10 people, 20 people, 30 people.
Hmm.
And we also got blessed with a genius of a CFO for 21 years named Dana, who, even though we hadn't really changed our systems and processes, she could manage everything because honestly, she's the smartest person ever met, especially when it came to numbers. Well, unfortunately, a few years ago, she passed unexpectedly, and we were left with a system that we could not figure out. And even our external accountants were struggling. So, going from that to a repeatable, programmable system with a new CFO over the past 3 years has been a real challenge. And we've really had to update how we do everything from accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, etc. We are just now getting into, let's say, a more modern age accounting and taking care of the number side in an efficient way, as opposed to a back of the napkin way that we kind of struggled with for a while. And through it, but it's been a real challenge, especially adapting to a new payroll system, that's more efficient, it's more automated. But again, human behavior, we don't like to change. So getting people to clock in and clock out, and oh, you didn't clock in again. I'm sure you're well aware those are the challenges everybody has.
Yeah, I understand some people, and I always like EOS systems, EOS, and when somebody leaves the company or passed, and the other person could get in and understand everything. So
Yeah.
that these are the systems I like. I think these are the systems that work. So you have been with the company 14 years, right?
Yes.
You are one of the leaders. And as
Yes.
Burns grew, what did you personally have to stop doing and start doing or become a better leader or I don't know which things you delegate now, but you didn't used to.
Oh my
And
gosh.
sometimes before you
How much
start,
time do you have?
okay, we have time, don't worry about it. So, and I know you have a lot of information, so I don't want to miss that chance, okay? So you can speak how much you want. And also, I know it's very hard. Also, I'm an entrepreneur and to let go of things. So I also would like you to mention about these details.
Sure, sure. I'm happy to do it. Okay. The biggest, well, in a particular order, I'll say this. Number one, through our external coaches, Mike and Jody, I had to learn that the goal of a leader is different from the goal of a manager. And to take on true leadership, and what I have taken on, is that my goal is to make the people that work with me and for me better. It's not to actually do things. So there were times if a customer was really escalated and we had a tight situation, I wanted to step in and solve the problem. And guess what? I'm really good at it. I can remember as early as 3 years ago, I was taking 6 or 8 internal sales calls a day, and doing what I thought was helping the team by saying, "Hey, I'm your leader. I'm doing it. I'm with you in the trenches as well." But I realized I was preventing people from growing. So what I had to learn to do, and it's very painful, I think as any parent knows, is I got to stop doing this for my kids. I've got to let them do these things. And more importantly, I've got to let them fail so we can talk about it and we can grow together with it. So I have had to let go tons of daily tasks that I was handling, and then I struggled to go, okay, now what do I do with my time? Like, okay, I'm not taking 10 or 12 sales calls a day. I'm not handling 3 or 4 escalations. Now I've had to shift my focus to, well, my job is not to do those things. It's let me coach and work with our managers to help them teach that next generation and make them better. So it was painful, to be honest, because I personally saw a lot of my intrinsic human value in what I could do. Look at me, I'm good at this. Look at me, I can do this better than you. And that's great for my ego, but it's not really good for helping people. So it was a painful lesson to learn, especially as I'm approaching my 60s now. I need to start thinking about that next generation and what I'm leaving behind. So it's fulfilling and I'm loving it now, but it wasn't fun to learn at the time.
I hear you very well. I'm struggling.
It is hard. It's so
I
much easier
know.
to do the dishes than to let your kids break the dishes. And it's like, but you
Yes,
you got to do it. It's painful.
it's painful. I'm perfectionist, so yeah, it's a very challenging thing for me nowadays. Yeah, I hear you.
For sure.
But it's good that we have that conversation, so I will ease the things now. Okay. How many techs in the field do you have?
Just over 180.
Okay. So I think 80 technicians in the field. How do you create consistency across the customer experience? What are the systems, processes that make that consistency possible at this scale? It's not an easy thing, I
You
guess.
that you just nailed it, Faye. That's exactly what our focus has been on probably for the past 4 years, getting better at it, which is instead of relying on me as the recruiter to hire good people that we could just put out there and trust that they go do the right thing because we hired the right person, which again works for a certain level of company. We have really had to learn to say no. We need to create a system basically for everything. So it's as simple as what our manager team is working on right now. We put them in a room and basically said, let's look at the past 50 complaints we've gotten. And we're great. Our Google reviews are average is 4.8 or whatever, but that's not good enough for us. If we're getting a 1-star review once a week, we don't like it. So we looked at the 1-star reviews we do get, and every single one of them could be tied back to communication. None of them were about bugs or pests or a pest issue. They were all about the guy was late. No one told me this, and which I'm sure everybody's familiar with. So number one, we had to trust that our middle managers could handle it. again, hard to let go, basically said, every one of these is related to communication. You folks, sales, service, and operations managers, because we got them all, you all need to come up with a process to solve this issue and let us know when you're done. Let us know how you're going to implement it and let us know what it looks like when it's working. And they are right. And that's what we've had to learn to do with every process we've created is get the people that are actually going to do the work and hold people accountable to the process to design it. Instead of what we used to do, which was we're executives, we're really smart, we design the process, here you go, implement it. And guess what, Faye? It never works that way. There's no
It
buy-in.
never, yeah.
No. So now they're about a week into the process and they'll be done in about a week, but I'm seeing what looks like a great system for communication from the moment they call to the moment we're done and everything in between of who does what, how they're going to do it, and how we check it. And that's how we have begun to design our systems and processes, whether it's for pest control and for bed bugs, whether it's what do we do in a multifamily situation when we have 3 or 4 horrible German roach problems that are all adjacent to each other. What's their process? We get our managers on board to help to design that because they're the boots on the ground.
And at that scale, technology can do more than make individual tasks easier, and it can change how quickly the organization can improve. And I know it's very important for you, the human touch. And I
Yeah.
can see that wording all around when it comes to burns.
Thank
And how do you evaluate new technology or pest control procedures before deciding they are ready to be adopted across the company?
We go small first. So we have a commitment that we've always had that we've never violated, which is if you're calling between business hours, you're going to get a live human. Ever deviated from that. However, what happens after hours? Well, we've adopted technology, which is an AI assistant that we call Sarah, which I think is named after Austin's daughter, which is a little egotistical, but I'll allow it. Anyway, Sarah takes our after hours calls. We are very careful when it comes to adopting new technology to make sure that this will make us better and create a way for our people to grow and learn how to do something new, not get rid of a person. Meaning, the minor changes that we've made over the past year in our accounts receivable, accounts payable, using AI and technologies, creating those efficiencies is not to get rid of a payroll person, it's allowing that person to do more, to increase the customer experience. Because when you take away some of the mundane tasks of a billing agent, guess what? They have more time to have one-on-one customer interaction, which is what we're looking for. So we need to make sure, and we've been committed to this for the past few years, is when we're looking at technology, the goal of applying any technology is to make a person's life easier, more efficient, so they can grow. So as long as we continue to commit to that, we're not replacing jobs, we're helping people become better versions of themselves, which is a core value.
So does a size give an advantage when it comes to testing and implementing all these new
Yeah,
ideas?
yeah, we're rich. Are you kidding? No. Okay.
How is it like? Okay, my question is, how is it like to be rich when you wake up every morning?
First of all, I am not rich, but my company does have a
Your
lot of money.
company. I'm talking about your company, and like I know it's
So
totally different.
here's
Yeah.
the advantage, and it's excellent. Number one, we buy a lot of product from our suppliers.
Mm.
So that means when they have something new, they usually come to us first to go, hey, will you test this thing out to see if it works?
Mhm.
Two, we can afford to hire the best. So our director of technical services, Jeff Keller, we brought him on board about 7 years ago, and that man is a geek and a nerd for pest control. And what's amazing about him is even though I think he's 60 years old, he is not interested in doing it the old way. So we can afford to send him to the seminars, we can afford him to send him to the learning so he can learn what is next in pest control, because we learned very early on that when we adopt a new technology, like I mentioned earlier, we're really good at multifamily housing. Well, guess what? That means 28 years ago, when we fired a salesperson who was really well versed in our systems, 2 years after we let him go for some issues, he started his own pest control company using our processes as soon as his covenant not to compete ran out. And the shame is not on him, it's on us because we were still doing it the same way 2 years later. So now we are constantly investing in the next level thing, meaning digitally monitored and AI monitored rodent traps. The way we treat for German roaches now is wildly different than the way we treated even as early as 3 years ago, because Jeff and our service team has the freedom and the funds to test that new technology, usually in a small market first, like either a certain section of the East Valley or Tucson or Vegas. And once we prove that it works, we can now implement a new process company wide. So we're always at the front of technology in the Southwest.
And of course, having more resources also gives you more options to for where to invest. So how do you decide where the next dollar should go when you're running a company of this size? Like what is one investment Burns has made that produced a much bigger return than you initially expected? And
Las Vegas. We had a family member. She'd been with us for 20 years. Her husband's parents lived in Vegas. There's a lesson at the end of this. And she basically said, "Hey, I've got to move to Vegas. My husband's parents are getting older. So I'm going to have to leave you. I love you so much. I don't want to leave." And Dave and Danny said, "Well, don't quit. Let's just open a branch in Vegas." And we figured it out. And Becky and her husband George went over there 8 years ago. And now that's almost a $4 million branch.
nice.
So again, that commitment to family, which is don't leave, we'll figure something out, has really served
You
us.
don't want
So
anybody to leave.
once a person has been here about 5 years, this was always Dave and Danny's belief, was now they've got tenure. Now you figure out how to hold on to them. It takes about 5 years to earn your way into the family, so to speak, and I can
Mhm.
attest to that because that's about. But once you're in, it's like, hey, okay, you're in for life. Where do you want to go next? What's going on? So learning that we can grow via that branch model, because we're the top dog in Phoenix, we're not going to grow that much more in this market. We already own market share. So learning how to do it in a repeatable, predictable process in smaller markets. And Vegas, believe it or not, is not that huge a market, but maybe it's an Albuquerque or somewhere in Colorado. Stay in the Southwest and grow that way. Never California.
We just mentioned about technology and systems, also can create a lot of leverage and but they still
Yes.
depend on real people using them. So so what does effective training look like inside a company with 250 people?
All of our training when we're adopting something new is always our focus is on our managers because they're the ones that are going to have to teach it. So we have a once a month class called Manager University where we all get together in our Phoenix office and we practice a training or coaching skill. We practice, we role play, we get it right, we get it right, we get it right. Rarely do we get together just to present them with information. So all of our focus is on making our managers better leaders, better coaches, better trainers. And then to be brutally honest, we give them the process or they design the process and we trust them to train their people on it. And they have learned that everybody learns different. So to focus on your team members, some learn visually, some learn with their ears, some learn by doing it. So figuring out how those people are, figuring out how to observe and give feedback so they know that they're improving or what they need to work on. But almost all of our training when it comes to new technology is focused on the managers and trusting them to get it to their people.
The development training starts with getting the right people into the organization. And, 250 employee are constantly recruiting. What have you learned about attracting and retaining the kind of people you actually want to build the company around?
Man, I have grown so much in the past 15 years because that's my primary role is recruiting and hiring. I'll tell you what I learned, and this is the biggest one, and it's insane that it took me so long to learn it because of my background as sales. which is if you want to hire great people, and when I say great people, here's what I mean. We're looking for people that, number one, are stable and steady, meaning they have a steady work history. That's very important to us, is to be a stable person. Number, they have a desire to matter. They have an internal desire to make a difference in some way, because we can harness that. And three, they know internally that they matter. So I've got a whole process that's too long to get into to discover that type of person in the phone interview and the live interview. But the most important lesson I've learned is a very simple one, Faye, which is if you want the right people, you have to go after them. You can't wait them to come to you. So I utilize my employment software, the ZipRecruiters, the Indeeds. Yeah, I'll put ads, but if you're putting an ad up and hoping people come to you, good luck. I have learned to program those systems to search for key things in the resume that I know line up with those personalities I mentioned, those traits. And I am reaching out to people across all industry with the right personality, approaching them saying, hey man, you've got an excellent resume. And I know you've probably never thought about pest control and it's a crazy idea, but if you want to have a conversation with me, we would love to talk about you on our team. And I am not looking for pest control experience. That's nice if they have it, but we do not care. You find the right person that's willing to grow, willing to learn, and wants to make a difference. All you have to do is gentle leadership to point them in the right way and stand back and let them cook. It's fun.
What about the generational differences? Like, I'm sure you have a chance to work with.
Boo, I don't
Uh,
believe in them.
yeah,
How many?
that's
Oh,
good.
sorry. I'm sorry, Faye. That is my. You have just pushed my hot button.
It's okay. I
Can,
love it because,
can I
first of
ask you a
all,
question?
I don't like this. Okay,
I
Gen
can
Z
tell you
is
don't.
theirs. I don't like it.
Right.
Gen Z. I
I
don't like it.
every time I hear that, I go, that's what your dad's generation said about you.
Yeah,
Like we
exactly.
it is chronological snobbery to think that your generation is somehow better or more evolved or more advanced than this new generation. The only thing about generations is that they see things different and they learn things different. And hey buddy, if you can't adapt to that, that's on you. Because Gen
Mhm.
Z is not lazy, they are not stupid, they do have a work ethic. They just are motivated in different
Different
ways, and it's
ways.
on the
Yeah.
yes, it's on the
And I
leader to
respect
adapt to
it.
them.
I really respect
Faye,
that
I love you.
also.
I
Yeah.
love you.
Because
You
I'm
made my
a
day. Thank you for saying that.
millennial and I did not know my word. Like Gen Z knows it right now. I respect that. So I look at them like Gen Z, like, oh, their feeling are missing, I don't look at it like they are worse than no. I want to see what is good about them, what is better
Yeah.
about them.
Here's what's
Yeah.
good about them, because I'm studying this constantly because I'm a trainer. They learn differently. So Gen Zs, so you'll see stuff that says the Gen Z, oh, their cognition and their ability, excuse me, to retain information is nowhere near what it used to be. You'll even hear claims that this is the first time cognitive abilities among high school students have gone backwards. And that is true. But they don't give you the rest of it, which is, yeah, because they learn differently. You can't give them, or I shouldn't say can't, you're not going to be super effective coaching Gen Z by giving them a huge pest control study manual and saying, go learn this test on Friday. What they can do that's amazing is they can cover a ton of information all at once. They can multitask business because they're used to seeing 7-second clips here, there, boom, and they do retain it. You've got to teach them differently. And we're not there yet. We're slowly adapting to teach more to that line because in our classes, what we call it Burns University, but especially in new onboarding training that week that they do, we've got all different age groups. So unfortunately, we have to do a hybrid that kind of appeals to everybody. But yeah, all you have to do is learn how to teach differently. And forgive me, that's on the instructor, that's on the trainer. It's not on the generation.
I agree with you because I see it like, I'm an immigrant, okay? I moved to a new, country.
What? I
So
didn't know that. I'm just
what I'm trying to say, you're expecting a whole community that change to your, like, how do I say it? And you want
yes,
them
yes.
adapt to yourself. So I moved to this country. So should I bring everything from my,
Yeah.
hometown
Did
and
did you walk around
try
going,
to,
"Hey, this is how we
yeah,
do it in Turkey.
yeah,
Change. You need to
yes.
change." Yeah. You're
That's
100% right.
ridiculous.
You
Yeah.
adapt.
Yeah, you adapt. Yeah, okay, good. And okay, also, why is keeping that human to human customer experience so important to Burns, even when automation could make certain processes faster or more efficient? How do you create a culture when employees feel responsible for also solving the customer's problem rather than simply completing a task also, you know?
It's a great question, Faye. Because at the end of the day, well, what we're doing is we're not providing pest control. Because to be brutally honest, in the Southwest, any moron can do pest control, and a lot of morons do. What we are doing is making a person or persons feel safe in their home or business. That that is the number one thing we do, and it's all of our education in our first week of onboarding with new employees is we're not providing pest control. That's not what we're doing. We are providing an emotional experience to take people from scared or anxious to relieved and safe. And you cannot do that with AI. You cannot do it with a process. You cannot do it with a system. You have to do it with a human. You have to have a human saying, I hear you. I understand where you're coming from. I've been there myself, and it's going to be okay, and here's how.
Okay. And I'll, circle back to generation also. I know
Go.
Burns isn't only managing growth, and Burns also navigating a generational transition within the business.
Yeah, we are.
So, yeah. And you also mentioned things were different with Al, things were different with Dave and Danny, right?
Danny. Yep. Dave and
Danny.
Danny.
And
Al, Dave and
now
Danny, and now Austin, Corey, and Amanda.
Corey and Amanda. Yeah. What gives you confidence in Alston, Corey, and Amanda as the next generation of leaders?
Well, the reason I was attracted to Burns in the first place was Dave and Danny Burns were the smartest business owners I'd ever met. So I felt safe with them, going back to that safe feeling. The reason I feel even safer now with Austin, Corey, and Amanda is holy crap, they are smarter than their dads. They really are smarter. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I mean, they had the benefit of growing up in pest control, starting at the bottom and working their way up. But their knowledge is so broad and so deep that if you would have told 25-year-old me someday you're going to have a 28-year-old for a boss and you're going to enjoy it, you're going to like it, I would have laughed you out of the room. I'm 52 years old and I take my orders from a 28-year-old, a 27-year-old, and a 30-year-old. And I love it. They are amazing kids. They are very smart.
And I'm sure, it happens in generational companies. They grew up hearing
Yeah,
that next generation often screws up the business.
always.
So, do you think that pressure to do it better than their dads is actually helping them become better leaders?
Yeah, I honestly, and the the three kids are just naturally competitive people. Amanda competed in horse events. Austin was a professional motocross rider for a few years. Corey was a professional baseball player. They have a competition in them. I can see it. And I honestly think, for all the right reasons, they're like, we just want to be better than they were. And you look at our growth this year, they have a point. Like, it's working. It's fun as hell to watch. I think they're coming from a good place, but plus I don't know because I've never experienced this. Although I'm a son of a father, there was a drive in me to maybe at some point have a nicer house than my dad had, or to give my kids a little bit more than I had. So I can understand that desire. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and I'm sure a good chunk of it's coming from that.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, you have already built something that very, at Burns, all of us, very few pest control operators ever built. So I want to finish by looking forward, okay? So at this
Yes.
point, is getting bigger still the goal for Burns? So your goal is 50 million.
Yep.
And so is there a point where you would choose profitability, culture, or quality over simple generating more revenue? Because we
I
have
don't
seen
know.
that.
Yeah, you're right. You were 100% right. Well, number one, I'm going to assume a couple of things. I'm assuming our growth model will never change, which is number one, never sell, always privately owned by the Burns family. They have no outside investors. They're not looking for them. They have no partners. They never have. It's 100% the Burns family. That's it. So if we maintain the way we're going, no issues. We're going to have the same business practices and same culture in 20 years than we do today. It honestly, this is going to sound weird. It depends on Austin, Corey, and Amanda's kids. Meaning, Austin, Corey, and Amanda grew up in the business, wanting to be a part of it. That was their desire. It was not forced upon them. What I'm curious about, and I probably won't be alive to see it, is they each have 7 kids between all of them. And if that generation, if they can pick the 2 or the 3 or maybe all 7 that really believe in what this company stands for and want to take it to that next level, we'll be fine. What we'll do is we'll grow by branch. We'll create new markets, focusing on the Southwest at first until there, and then maybe it's 50 to 100 million down the road. I mean, it's exciting to think about it. It's a great thought experience or experiment, but it's all that 4th generation.
And when you look 5 years ahead,
Yeah.
what would make you say we grew the right way?
Another 5 years, another 20, 25 employees, another tiny branch starting, our northern Arizona branch having an office and some employees being big enough to support its own little office. That's the physical indicators. And most importantly, is in the summer, the worst possible time for pest control in Arizona. In the summer, when I come into work and I get here early and I see a bunch of people that don't have to be here, because techs can just do their route. They can just straight from home. They take their vehicles home. When I see 20 or 30 techs that don't have to be here, when I see them come into the office in the morning to say hey to their boss, to screw around, to play around, to tell jokes, we still have smokers, to hang out and smoke and they just want to hang out, and everybody's a good attitude, even though it's 95 degrees at 7 a.m. in the morning. If we're still seeing that, we're on the right track.
Awesome. So, Mike, it was a real pleasure having you on Pest Radio. I really enjoyed our
Thank you.
conversation and all the story
Me
about
too.
Burns and what you have built. And thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
It was truly my pleasure, Faye. And the best thing I love about it is I got to talk about myself the whole time. So I'll do this anytime.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you
You're
for
welcome.
everybody who is listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to Pest Radio for more conversations with the leaders shaping the future of the pest control industry. See you in the next episode.
Woohoo!